Hi, Brian here from What the Fungus. Today I want to get into probably one of the toughest things of any business is sales. Today I want to dive into different market streams you should be looking at, but also as you scale and build your business up, you're going to start overproducing, and how do you deal with all that excess mushrooms? What kind of restaurants maybe you should be looking for, but also how do you deal with restaurants when they don't want your stuff? Because as you might know, mushroom businesses, they always have to kind of compete with the wild mushroom market. And in the fall or in the spring, you might not be able to sell as many mushrooms as you want because chefs always value scarcity. And when there's beautiful wild mushrooms available, that's what they're going to want. So today I want to dive into what do you do when somebody doesn't want your mushrooms, but you have mushrooms to sell. All that's coming out in this video. Alright, before we dive into this video, I've written a book. Some of you may or may not know. It's part of our mentorship program. I'll leave a link up there. Definitely one of the key topics in that book is market research and dealing with chefs and other market streams. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And if that book interests you, just send me an email. But definitely watch that video. Again, the video link is just right up there. So I think one of the biggest challenges as I scale my business and we're trying to grow more mushrooms is how do we continuously sell out? My business for the last 5 years, we're always behind on demand, but when we get into specific times of year, especially as we're heading into fall, restaurants want wild mushrooms, and they want it in such high demand that they might not even want my mushrooms. And it's kind of hard not to be offended by that, but really chefs value scarcity, and wild mushrooms are only around for sometimes 4 weeks, if not less, and they might be hard to find. And people always value wild mushrooms, and it doesn't matter how much I market my business in a seasonal, unique way. People or chefs or clients, they might value wild mushrooms over cultivated mushrooms. And I know even just at the farmer's market, I get people wanting chanterelles, lobster mushrooms, morel mushrooms, and I tell them I don't have it, and then they walk away. Does that mean anything on my business, on the product that I'm growing? No. It's just the reality, and you need to find a way to work within the reality of your market. And you can be a part of the wild mushroom industry. I've definitely worked with local mushroom buyers, and I've bought and sold morel mushrooms at my local farmers market and to restaurants in my area. That's definitely one way to do that. I've done that with chanterelles, lobster mushroom, pine mushrooms. You know, if I capture all these different market streams, I can continue selling to the chef. And if I can continue showing the chef what I'm growing, maybe I can get them interested in my product. I think the key to understand with chefs is that they always want the latest, greatest thing. And they always want something in scarcity. They want something kind of new and flashy. And if you're growing the same mushroom every month and you don't change up your stuff, I can almost guarantee you that the restaurants that are good clients now, they're probably just going to get bored of what you're growing. So we grow seasonal mushrooms April to November, and a lot of that has to do with because that is the market here in the Okanagan. And I've developed my business in a seasonal way so that I can capture on the seasonality of the tourist industry here in the Okanagan. And I wouldn't really be able to have a full year-round business. So we've just kind of ran with that, and that means my product offering is always changing, and we're able to sell unique mushrooms every couple weeks, every month, and our product is always changing for chefs. And for the most part, I would say 85-90% of the time, this keeps everyone really interested. And then there's the odd client that might not take stuff as wild mushrooms come, and that's okay. But it's understanding what you're up against, because if you're counting on these restaurants to pick up mushrooms from you and then they stop, what are you supposed to do? I think the biggest thing you need to realize is that chefs aren't always going to take everything that you have every week. And you're going to always have the big clients, the whales that you can always count on. And then you're going to have the smaller clients that might take a little bit every week. But then you're also going to have clients that only want stuff every 2 weeks. And they're going to change their menus from time to time. And your mushrooms may or may not be on it. But chefs always like to feature products. And I think if you can take pictures and send those in a text message is a great strategy if you have unique stuff that you want to show chefs. Or a really great strategy is, why don't you just show up to these restaurants? Maybe you tried texting the chef and you said, hey, do you want mushrooms? They say, hey, I'm good this week. Hey, can I come back? Can I come by today? I'm going to pick up my baskets. Sure, great. And then maybe you just ask them, like, what's going on? You kind of get a feel of why they don't want your mushrooms. Maybe they don't have space in their fridge. Maybe they're just overwhelmed because summer is really taking a toll on them and they're understaffed. Or maybe they already have some of your mushrooms still in the fridge. There might be a number of reasons why they don't want mushrooms. And I think the key is obviously don't get offended. I understand being a farmer and you work really hard to produce these amazing mushrooms or this amazing produce, and if somebody doesn't want your mushrooms and you put obviously all this work into producing this product and you can't sell it, that is probably the worst thing in the world that could happen, right? So I think understanding where the chefs are at is a good strategy, but also maybe inviting them to your farm and showing them what you're doing and let them see how much blood, sweat, and tears go into your product, and really get them inspired about why they should buy your mushrooms. And I feel like they're going to be loyal towards your business and really want to support you. And other strategies would be, do YouTube videos just like this, Instagram, Facebook, really kind of get the word out of what you're growing so that people are inspired by what you do. That's a great strategy to kind of keep the clients always wanting more. You could try to create demand by creating scarcity. Contact the chef and say, hey, I only got 5 pounds of this unique mushroom. Maybe it's chestnut mushrooms, pink oyster mushrooms, and they haven't had them yet. And just say, hey, I know you said you didn't want any mushrooms a few days ago, but I happen to have this. I have someone else that wants this, but I feel like you might want to try this product, and maybe you can move mushrooms that way. So creating scarcity for the chef and some kind of urgency for them to buy the mushroom might be a great way to get a quick sale as well. Chefs love to buy on impulse, and if they feel like there's something really unique that they should try and you don't have much of it, it's a great way to create demand. Next thing I would say is do the farmers market. We have at least 3 farmers markets in my area. Penticton Farmers Market is by far the biggest. I can move about 60 to 100 pounds of mushrooms on any given Saturday there. We always use the farmers market to bail us out, and then I start doing more farmers markets in that week if I continue to have too much mushrooms for the demand for the restaurants that I currently supply to. So we always focus direct to the restaurant. They're always our number one clients, and then the farmers market is what we use for overflow. That's a great strategy because chefs need their weekly orders, whereas the farmers market, you can bring a little bit or a lot and customers aren't going to really get upset or give pressure on you filling orders. So we like to use the farmers market as a great way to unload product if we have extra. Let's say you're still in a situation where you have extra mushrooms. Obviously, mushrooms can store really well and you can keep them in the fridge for a couple days as long as you're making sure that they're not drying out and you're continuously moving all that product to the chefs as the orders come out. So if you've been doing this business for a little bit, you might realize that Sunday, Monday are the hardest days to sell mushrooms to chefs, and then everybody wants Tuesday to Saturday. That's very common. So if I'm harvesting right now, like today is Saturday, I might hold on to those mushrooms Saturday, Sunday, and then start trying to get some stuff out Monday, but knowing that Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to be able to probably unload quite a bit. So always kind of understanding who needs mushrooms and try to cycle your product as much as you can. And then, worst case scenario, maybe I have to go into a couple of the baskets that have been sitting for 2-3 days and cycle out some mushrooms that are drying out and put in some fresh, and maybe I lose a little bit. The best way for you to sell your product is always trying to move as much fresh as you can and as quickly as you can, but you don't want to sacrifice on quality because you want your customers to continue to buy from you. So anyways, guys, I hope all these strategies help. That's what we do, and obviously once we get bigger, we're going to be more focusing on possibly working with CSA companies. As we start overproducing, we'll probably be in a situation where we've hit the market cap at our really high prices for restaurants. Then we'll have to start dropping our prices a little bit, work with CSA companies, and then maybe continue dropping our prices even further and start doing wholesale, where we can unload maybe 200 or 400 pounds a week, strictly wholesale, and that goes to the coast here in Vancouver. These are all things that I'm always aware of. Basically what I'm trying to get at is you have a specific market cap where you can sell to restaurants and the farmers market at a high price, but eventually that price has to come down if you want to start producing more mushrooms, or you got to keep your farm small and start diversifying in other ways to bring in money. Like we do, we focus on education, where we do our mentorship program, we sell cultures, we have a YouTube channel. You guys are watching my video right now, so we do ad revenue, Patreon, we sell What the Fungus t-shirts. All that's on our website at wtfmushrooms.com. There's lots of ways that you can diversify your business, but for a mushroom business or any kind of produce, vegetable style business, there comes to that point where you're going to have to start dropping your prices, or you're going to have to start expanding your product offerings so that you have more options for chefs so you can start selling more product. I hope this has given you lots of ideas and kind of understand where we're at in our business. We're always trying to figure stuff out here on my farm, and ultimately we're always trying to improve my business so we can work on efficiencies and save money, and then start cutting out labor, cutting out steps so that we can drop the price per pound for our mushrooms once we need to, if competition comes in, or we need to start looking at wholesale, as we're always, every year, we're getting a lot better at growing mushrooms. And when you have too many mushrooms, all of this can be stressful, but ultimately, if you have a great product, people are going to want to buy from you. Anyways, guys, that's all for now. We'll see you in the next video.